pupper, though. Right, where's this letter? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Hold on. Need appropriate. Yeah, we're farming Torghast today, guys. Scratch Bahamut. Scratch that. Scratch that. We're farming Torghast today. Everyone, behold! A few weeks ago, I reiterated our commitment to become the most welcoming, inclusive company in our industry. Today, I want to update you on some initial progress and important additional steps we are taking to advance our commitment with greater impact, transparency, and urgency. First, I want to offer my sincere gratitude for your continued focus and dedication to our players and to each other. You've shown incredible resilience throughout the pandemic, exceptional care for colleagues and communities, and a relentless commitment to excellence, creative independence, and purpose that allows sets of our company and our franchises apart. During a tremendously challenging time for so many people, you've continued to bring joy and connection to our players and communities around the world. Alright, so this was not for the public, really. This was for the company. My goal, and the goal of our board, our entire senior corporate team, our business unit leaders, and their teams, is to make sure you have the resources, culture, and commitment from leadership you need to succeed in our collective aspiration to be the model workplace in our industry. Over the last decade, as we've brought in new companies, grown our workforce, and expanded our business, we believe we had the systems, policies, and people in place to ensure that our company always lived up to its reputation as a great place to work. Tremendous.
Hey, kids, smiley face.
Smile. The guardrails weren't in place everywhere to ensure that our values were being upheld. In some cases, people didn't consistently feel comfortable reporting concerns, or their concerns weren't always addressed promptly or properly. People were deeply let down, and for that, I am truly sorry. Being welcoming and inclusive in the context of our workplace is crystal clear. We will still passionately debate ideas, employ healthy skepticism when appropriate, and demand excellence and rigor in all our pursuits. But we will always treat each other with dignity and respect. And regardless of differences, voices will be heard, perspectives welcomed, and contributions valued. We are a business fueled by passion and performance. There are cornerstones of our creative excellence, but we must constantly recognize, embrace, and celebrate the very best ideas, the most rigorous execution of those ideas, and ultimately, our responsibility to our players and each other at best served by a culture that recognizes and respects true excellence comes from diverse views, voices, and talents. We've made progress over the last few years, fostering that diversity and creating a better work environment. A commitment that has improved in scope and speed in recent months. We've tripled our investment into anti-harassment and anti-discrimination training. We've made meaningful organizational changes, and we've substantially increased resources for reporting and carefully investigating improper behavior. The EEOC's investigative process, public discussion on discrimination and harassment, and your reports and suggestions help shine a light on practices we need to improve, policies that need to be strengthened, and resources we are now adding. The EEOC's review was a catalyst to sharpen our focus on the ways we can become a company others emulate as a model for workplace excellence, and one with an unwavering commitment to its values. Interesting wording there. We have a lot more to do if we are to be the company that others emulate. I want to share 5 new changes we are implementing, but recognize that being a model for workplace excellence will be a dynamic process requiring additional changes and an unrelenting commitment to improvement. Alright, this is what we're doing. Number 1, we are launching a new zero-tolerance harassment policy company-wide. In the past, when we discovered a substantiated harassment, we terminated some employees and provided verbal or written warnings or different disciplinary actions to others, sometimes nothing at all. In retrospect, to achieve our goals for workplace excellence, this approach is no longer adequate. We need tougher rules and consistent monitoring across the entire company to make sure reports are being handled correctly and discipline is appropriate and swift. As a result, we are implementing a zero-tolerance policy across Activision Blizzard that will be applied consistently. Our goal is to have the strictest harassment and non-retaliation policies of any employer, and we will continue to examine and tighten our standards to achieve this goal everywhere we do business. Any Activision Blizzard employee found through our new investigative processes and resources to have retaliated against anyone for making a compliance complaint will be terminated immediately. In many other instances of workplace misconduct, we will no longer rely on written warnings. Termination will be the outcome, including in most cases of harassments based on any legally protected category. Future employment contracts and equity awards will be clear. Termination for these reasons will result in the immediate forfeiture of future compensation. We also want to ensure that employees who file reports are encouraged, protected, and heard. For all reports of harassment and retaliation, we will investigate the allegation and whether the Activision... So you didn't do that? I mean, we do that, man. Like, no joke. We do that. I have 5 employees. We do that. Bro. Like, we have a HR company. And whether the Activision Blizzard personnel who received the report of such behavior took the appropriate steps to protect the integrity of our compliance processes. There may be some places around the world where local law may restrict some of these measures. In those cases, we will apply the highest permissible standards and the strongest possible discipline. Okay. Number 2 then. We will increase the percentage of women and non-binary people in our workforce by 50%. And will invest $250 million to accelerate opportunities for diverse talent. Today, approximately 23% of our global employee population identifies as a woman or non-binary. Building on the success that King and other businesses units have achieved, we will seek to increase our percentage of women and non-binary professionals by approximately 50%. Are they going to be token hires that don't even have work, though, just to get the number up? Because that would, like, not be good. So more than 1/3 across the entire company. Within the next 5 years, and hopefully faster, each franchise team, business unit, and functional area will expect it to have plans to help fulfill this ambition. Yeah, quotas are really dangerous. I mean, I can't talk for a company like this, right? I can't. But the way we work is, I don't give a single flying fuck what is between your legs or what you like to do in your bedroom, anything. I want good people, you know? I really don't care. Quotas seem really dangerous. But we'll see. We respect to diversity. We will perform better than our peers with 30% of our US workforce for diverse and underrepresented communities. Broadening this progress will continue to be a significant focus of mine, as well as company, business unit, and franchise leadership. I mean, it's dangerous, though, because you do have people that come from harsher backgrounds and don't get a chance. I mean, it's such a convoluted mess. But quotas feel dangerous. I don't know. That's tough. That's really tough. To further this commitment, we will be investing an additional $250 million over the next 10 years in initiatives that foster expanded opportunities in gaming and technology for underrepresented communities. This commitment includes inspiring diverse talent to pursue career opportunities in gaming through the ABK Academy, that includes partnerships with colleges and technical schools serving underrepresented communities, mentorships for participants, and a rotating apprenticeship program that leads to game development jobs. See, I like that. Similar to the programs we began with the United Negro College Fund and Management Leadership for Tomorrow, we will also provide learning development and advanced degree opportunities for current employees to increase the number of women and those from underrepresented communities in leadership positions across the company and in our industry. I like this one. More education opportunities for people to get into it. In the coming months, Brian, Julie, and I will share details on how we are operationalizing these goals and implementing and measuring the expanded investment. Based on feedback from employees, we are waiving required arbitration of sexual harassment and discrimination claims. For any Activision Blizzard employee who chooses not to arbitrate an individual claim of sexual harassment, unlawful discrimination, or related retaliation arising in the future, the company will waive the obligation to do so. We will continue to increase visibility on pay equity. As described in the recent note from our president, Daniel Allegra, and our Chief Administrative Officer, Brian, the company continues to focus on pay equity for employees. In fact, our US analysis showed that women at the company on average earned more than the men for the comparable work in 2020. To ensure transparency and our continued commitment to pay equity, we will report these results annually. Huh. Wonder what that first report's going to look like. There's going to be some pay adjustment coming in somewhere, right? Unless it's already really close. What tends to happen here is people get new job titles. At my old company, when they did this, like before I started doing like entertainment stuff, my old company just created a bunch of new titles that allowed for people to earn more because they had a slightly different title. Kind of like a McDonald's strategy where you have like, I don't know the titles, but bear with me. Like fry cook, then you have advanced fry cook, senior fry cook manager, and you have like for the guy who makes the fries, there's like 5 different titles, so they can all stagger them out and say, well, you are the equity is there. It's just that you're not at that role, right? You're just an advanced fry cook. This guy is senior advanced fry cook, so he earns like 5K more, things like that. We will provide regular progress updates. We will be monitoring the progress of our business units, franchise teams, and functional leaders with respect to workplace initiatives, and we will provide a status report quarterly. We also be adding a dedicated focus on this vital work in our annual report to shareholders in our annual ESG report with information on gender hiring, diversity hiring, and workplace progress. Who's touching me? You can't be in here, pal. Working now, you little pirate. Now you're a pirate. I can see that. Specifics on how these measures will be implemented and tracked will be forthcoming. Lastly, I want to ensure that every available resource is being used in the service of becoming the industry leader in workplace excellence. Accordingly, I've asked our board of directors to reduce my total compensation until the board has determined that we have achieved the transformational gender-related goals and other commitments described above. Specifically, I have asked the board to reduce my pay to the lowest amount California law will allow for people earning a salary, which this year is $62,500. What is this? The lowest amount California law will allow for people earning a salary. To be clear, this is a reduction in my overall compensation, not just my salary. I am asking not to receive any bonuses or be granted any equity during this time. What's the back end on that, Bobby? God, I wish I didn't read this with such pessimism, because most of this all sounds pretty good overall for the staff, but I read it with such pessimism. My heart is just full of pessimism. I mean, there's a tendency when companies face challenging moments to lose sight of what makes them special, what makes them great. You are a truly special group of people who, through passion, conviction, drive, and determination, keep accomplishing extraordinary things. While the critical work ahead won't be easy, I am confident our collective commitment to workplace excellence will be achieved. I truly wish not a single employee had had an experience at work that resulted in hurt, humiliation, or worse. And to those who were affected, I sincerely apologize. You have my commitment that we will do everything possible to honor our values and create the workplace every member of this team deserves. I am grateful for how much people care about this company, and I appreciate that many past and present employees have reached out with their thoughts, concerns, and complaints, and suggestions. Your experiences, so courageously shared, serve as a reason and a reminder why it is so important for us to do better, and we will. With thanks and deepest gratitude, Bobby. To start, right? I mean, they've got to be... I imagine some of the staff are happy about the actual implementation of the changes. I wonder if any of the staff actually care about him reducing his salary. Because he's nearly... Is he a billionaire? He's close to. I don't think the individual staff probably care about this, but I mean, that feels more like a PR move to the public. Because everybody's always laughing at Bobby buying a new yacht and all that kind of stuff. So that feels like a little pat on the back for him more than anything. I think Bobby could retire tomorrow and pay for the next 20 generations of his family just fine. Everything else seems good, though. They have to show it's working, though, right? That's what I said when it all came out. It's like, it's great when we get all the PR stuff, but, I mean, we really need to... I want to hear from the staff that it's actually better, right? I don't think we've had that from anybody yet. I haven't heard it from the actual people working there. The union Twitter had a statement about the letter. Excellent. While today was a huge win for us, we remain vigilant and continue to push for other industry practices that need to change. We still stand firm by our demand that the investigation must be done by an unbiased third party, of which Wilmer Hale is not one. We continue to push for light to be shed on other industry practices like crunch, which can be especially harmful for health of game devs, especially the health of disabled and chronically ill game devs. We continue to give our unwavering support for our colleagues across the industry who are also pushing for change. I bet Ubisoft still has demands that are not being met. Together will we be that change. The quota thing is definitely suspect. Especially if, like, what you don't want to have happen here, like, if you're as pessimistic as me about this kind of stuff that comes out from companies, and only because, really, I've sat in the meetings where they've written these emails. Like, I've sat in the room with people where they debate the individual words of emails like this that are to go out to everybody, where, like, you have, like, a 20-minute debate over this sentence, right? It, like, does it need to be there? Are we committing to something we can't deliver? How are we actually going to achieve that? And occasionally, there's, like, the level of greed that exists in those meetings is mind-boggling sometimes, especially if you're not a particularly greedy person. I've shared this example before, but one of the reasons I left my past employer and moved to somewhere else is, for those of you who don't know, I used to manage vehicles, right? I can only express this because I have to talk from my own personal experience. But I used to be in a company that managed the vehicles of a corporation. So we managed like 800 vehicles for drivers all over the UK. And I had to leave, like, on a moral obligation. I'm not trying to pat my own dick here, but I had to leave on a moral obligation. I was the director of managing the vehicles, right? I was like the head honcho for doing this, besides the actual owner of the business. So I had the hands-on with the drivers and things like that. And I sat in a meeting with this third-party insurance company. And what the basic idea was, if there should be an accident, which obviously happens with 800 vehicles on the road, there's accidents monthly. If there's an accident, basically what their job was is that instead of calling me to start dealing with it and making the insurance claims, which is what I had to do, and going through the details with the driver, you pass it off to them. They deal with everything. And because they represent a ton of businesses, they get favorable rates, and they have deals with all these car hire places and truck hire places, and they have a replacement vehicle to that driver within like an hour, and basically work doesn't stop. A good idea, right? It's a good idea. So they have all these connections. They've got a massive amount of... They've managed like 20,000 vehicles just for insurance claims. So if for like one example, a cherry picker, which is them huge boom arms, like the massive ones that go up the sides of buildings, one of them fell on one of our trucks because the driver, for whatever reason, put it on a grass embankment and just like parked it there next to a car park, and it fell over into the car park and crushed his car, right? That was the phone call I got. So that kind of stuff happens. And through these people, they'll deal with all the claim. They'll fight it tooth and nail, which I could never be arsed doing. When the insurance company came back offering 50-50s, I might be dealing with like 20 claims at the time. We'll take the 50-50, right? Just so I can close it off the books. And they'll fight it tooth and nail to get the best rate. And they'll have another van to the guy in like 20 minutes. Then it got into this conversation. What if there's an injury to the driver? And that's when, like, I quit the week after. Because the conversation turned to, we get really good rates for injuries to people. So if someone breaks an arm, the way we can work it is that, yes, the driver will get some compensation, but we get so much money from the insurance claim that the company earns money on the back of it. Like £10,000 to £12,000. And then the conversation turns to death. It's like, well, if the driver dies, we can earn something like £100,000 and £150,000 in compensation for the business if the driver dies. And my director was like, oh, really? And there was an air in the room that it would be kind of cool if people died in our cars. And I'm sat there going, what are we talking about here? Because people were like smiling and like rubbing their hands together. And I never want to be quiet. So I was like, It sounds like you want people to die. They're like, no, obviously. But in the worst case scenario, they're like, no, obviously we don't want people to die. But if they do die, there's a profit to be earned. You know? So, and we will look for, let's say they didn't die, but they got seriously injured. We'll make sure that we claim, like, the broken rib, the broken arm, the punctured lung, the loss of eyesight, all these kinds of things. And I'm sat there going, you know, this world's not for me. Not for me. And I had a similar experience in another job where I was also in the board where we were discussing an email very much like this. Because, as you can imagine, it was a maintenance company doing, you know, odd jobs. It was 95% male that was the workforce. And they were talking about diversity hires. And they hired 5 women to try and change the ratio, who were all absolutely terrible. Unfortunately. But worse than that, they were bad at their job, so they got let go for not being good at the job, which is fair enough. But the worst part was the amount of discrimination those girls got from the guys before they'd even started. So irrelevant of their workability, they were already just being hammered. The guys were saying, well, I'm not working with her, I'm not working with a girl, she won't be able to lift the plaster, she won't be able to do X and Y, I'm not bothering with it, they'll break a nail, and all that kind of stuff. So they were putting together one of these emails to go out to people. And in the meeting, they were actively talking about, well, the guys aren't wrong, which wasn't true, by the way, which wasn't true, but they were like, well, the guys aren't wrong, so how do we make it so that if the girls do need to pair up, they're always paired up with the girls without it looking like we're actively pairing the girls up together all the time? And they were discussing how they word that to the people and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? Right? So, because the conversation was basically, we're not even going to try pairing the women up with the men on a job. We'll just try and wangle it so that they're in certain areas. So let's say Preston, which is a town near me. We hire 3 of the women in the Preston area, and it just so happens that geographically they'll also end up together. And they'll work it that way and all this kind of stuff. And it was just fucking so ridiculous. It was so out of hand to try and word it in a way to the staff to make them happy and make everyone else happy. But let's hope something good comes out of this, right? I just have such a pessimistic viewpoint on this after hearing these kinds of people behind closed doors before this public thing comes out about what they actually think when they're like not talking bullshit because they feel they're in a safe place where they can just say whatever. Yeah, I mean, greed is the overwhelming slime. Greed is overwhelmingly slimy. Overwhelmingly. Because I don't believe, like, even on this Bobby thing here, I don't believe that Bobby's agreed to this, but at the back end, he gets a ridiculous pay rise, right? Because they're always looking 5-10 years ahead. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do this now, but those bonuses that I should have earned are actually deferred until such time as it's appropriate I get them. And then I get it, like, all ballooned out at the back end once, because that would be like, we'll call it like a good job, Bobby, you did it bonus or whatever. It will be, like I say, 12 months max. Well, they could, I mean, that's what you're thinking, right? Like, in terms of some of the goals, they could hit them really quickly if they just cheese it. Using gamer language, they could cheese it. I don't know. I want to be optimistic. I want to be optimistic. I really do want to be optimistic. Hopefully it'll make things better for the people internally. And it won't foster an environment of fear about whether you speak up and you get fired because they investigation discovers that you were exaggerating too much or wasn't quite accurate and then you're fired. So you shouldn't speak up because if they don't find on your side, then you're out. There's also that essence of fear that comes into zero tolerance situations, which is you can't do anything because you're just going to get fired. And people believe that, especially if they don't believe that the investigative team is on their side, which is why the other people are asking for the third party. Anybody ever worked in an environment like that? It's not nice. It's not nice when there's an air of fear in the air about whether or not you should do something. Trust is everything, right? Trust is everything. I mean, I hope I have that even with our small staff team, is that you can ask me anything. It's fine. And you should be able to tell me anything. And if it is something complex or even involving me, we have a third party. We have a third party that can deal with it if I fucked up somewhere.